What's going on, everyone? Bran here from Bloody Breakdown, and today I kind of just wanted to talk about what a lot of people are thinking about, contemplating about, and that being the fate, so to speak, of the legacy characters. Of course, I speak of Sydney, Dewey, Gale. You can see them here in this image next to me. A lot of people are interested to see what the new characters are going to be like, what they're going to do, what kind of role they're going to play. That goes without saying. There's been a lot of interest in these new characters, as there always is every time there's a new Scream film. But one constant is that I'd say, probably more interested in what these legacy characters are up to. I mean, it's been, I guess it'll be close to 11 years in between Scream 4 and Scream 5. It has been in the real world. And a lot of times it's, a pretty close approximation kind of gauge going into these things because they're never really too far off as the actual passage of time. But as far as these legacy characters go, everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's got an idea of how things are going to pan out with these characters going into this one. And before I start, let me just say, one of the big debates about these characters, as far as Scream 5 or Scream 2022 goes, is a lot of people don't want to see any of them changed in any major way. A lot of people don't want to see any of these characters offed. A lot of people think it's kind of like a slight at Wes Craven if that happens, and I don't believe that's the case. I think if Wes Craven was around, eventually he would knock off one or more of these characters if the series continued under him. I think you have to after a while. But with that said, let's go ahead and jump in and let's talk about this here. So, it's been tossed around that Dewey and or Gale could be the opening kill. A lot of times you'll see a couple in the opening kill. I'd say that happened every time except for Scream 4, I believe, but I don't know. Maybe Marnie and Jenny Randall were a couple. I don't know. They never really explicitly stated that. But as far as we know, Scream 1, 2, and 3 all involved a couple being killed off in the beginning. Do I think that's going to happen here? I don't. Just for the sheer fact of how long both of them filmed. I'm talking Courtney Cox and David Arquette here. They both filmed longer, if I'm not mistaken, than Neve Campbell did. So I don't think you're going to be seeing them get knocked off in the beginning of the movie, like a lot of people have thought. If it happened, I would definitely say that it takes it raises the stakes. Let's say that it ups the ante. And whereas I probably would be a little upset with that, I would understand, I think, at least maybe after watching a few times, that it's these things are necessities. But I don't believe that's going to happen. I don't believe that's how the film's going to open up. I think that an attack on Dewey or Gale, specifically Dewey, and I'll get into that in just a moment, whereas he ends up surviving, may be a logical course of action. But if someone like, say, for example, Dewey were to die in the opening scene, it would work as a catalyst to bring Gale and Sydney into the mix. We don't know where these characters are. We have assumptions that Dewey is still in Woodsboro. I think Gale, if she's with Dewey, is still in Woodsboro, or maybe traveling a lot. Maybe the events of Scream 4 picked her career back up again. I doubt Sydney Prescott is still in Woodsboro. I mean, she's pretty much made it known that she doesn't want to live there. And who the fuck could blame her at this point? Let's be real. So there may have to be something to act as a catalyst to bring, especially Sydney back. Maybe Gale. Maybe even Dewey. I don't know. So I think it's a possibility of the whole Dewey thing. But once again, I think the fact that he filmed as long as he did, I don't really think that's going to be how this thing begins. Now, there's going to come a part, just speaking of these characters, one of them is probably going to die. One or two, maybe all three of them. We don't know. Now, I seriously doubt they're going to axe Sydney off. I just do. and I do see this film, as I've heard some other people put it, as a passing of the torch film, what Scream 4 was supposed to be, at least on the surface. And sure, it was part of the twist that wasn't what happened, but the fact that there are no, unless you're one of these Kirby stands that thinks that she's still alive, there's really no characters from that film that you could pass the torch to alive anymore. So I think you're definitely going to get it out of this film. I speak of a torch passing, so to speak. I think you're going to get not only a new Sydney character, but you're going to get a new Dewey and Gale. You're going to get a new set of legacy characters, maybe even a new Randy, but I'm going to get to that here in just a minute. So I'll go ahead and knock this off the table while we're talking about these legacy characters. I don't believe any of them are going to be Ghostface. I think if you were to kill all three of them, I would be less disappointed by one of them being Ghostface. If you're going to make one of them Ghostface, I think the only logical choice is Gale. And that's if she isn't in the scenario that I placed her in earlier, where the events of Scream 4 have reignited her career and, you know, she's traveling, she's doing all these things. If that's still not the case, or if the events of Scream 4 have calmed down so much, you know, it's been a decade plus, assuming in the Scream universe as it has in our world, maybe things have calmed down again. Maybe Gale needs something to pick her career back up again, reminiscent of how she was kind of used as a red herring in Scream 2. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but if one of these characters were going to don the Ghostface costume, I think it'd be Gale, obviously, for those reasons. Sydney being the killer would be probably awful, no matter how you spin it. And Dewey, I don't think that's very believable. I just really don't. But getting back to who's going to live and who's going to die here out of these three, which is a constant theme anytime you talk about the legacy characters from Scream and a new Scream film coming out. These three characters in particular have gone on through 4 films. They've survived everything that's been thrown at them. And they have, I mean, this picture right here that we're looking at right here as I'm speaking is kind of the Mount Rushmore of the Scream franchise, is it not? I mean, obviously I would say put in Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson and maybe even Roger Jackson. But as far as the faces on screen, this is the Mount Rushmore of this franchise. But like I said earlier, eventually you have to do things that raise the stakes. You have to do things that change things, that make you understand this. One of the things about Scream was always that you never knew who could go. And is been proven time and time again, no matter how many or how much these characters are loved, anyone's game. But we've gotten to a point now where these three characters are untouchable. That anytime you go into a Scream film, you kind of go in with the assumption that Sydney, Gale, and Dewey are going to walk away for the day, and maybe one other person, because that's kind of how it's been the entire series. It was the 3 of them and Randy in the first one, the 3 of them and Cotton in the second one, the 3 of them and Mark Kincaid in the third one, the 3 of them and Judy Hicks in the fourth one. It's literally always these 3 plus 1. You get a plus 1. And sometimes they die in the next movie. See Randy, see Cotton. Patrick Dempsey was too smart. He didn't come back to get killed off. But Judy Hicks, she's coming back for this one. So I'm calling it now. Judy's dead. I guess she's kind of a legacy character almost. But here's what I think. I think that one of these characters is going to die. Just one. I don't think they're going to go too buck wild and kill 2 of them, but I do think one of them will die. Now, if I had my druthers, if it were up to me which of these characters to knock off, I'd say, with no equivocation, Courtney Cox, Gale Weathers. She wanted to be killed off in the last film. That didn't happen. She, from what I understand, comes with a much higher price tag for these films than David Arquette, for example. And I really, maybe this is just me, but I don't really see where else to go with Gale, the character that isn't retreading. I can see a complete 180 of the Dewey character, maybe perhaps even after losing Gale. becoming this, like I said, the 180 of who he used to be, instead of this kind of goofy, let's go get it done type attitude, maybe a very depressed, somber dude. Like, I can see his character having another arc. Not only that, but David Arquette will come back and he will do these films as often as you have them. He's literally the Donald Pleasance of this franchise. Feel free to use that. He'll keep coming back and he'll keep doing it because A, he seems to really enjoy himself doing these films. And B, David Arquette really doesn't have a whole lot else going for him other than like pro wrestling, which is very strange, but I do respect the guy for doing what he's doing, honestly. So if I had my druthers, I'd kill Gail. Sorry, Gail stands, but she'd be gone. However, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think we're going to be saying goodbye to Dewey Riley in this film, and it doesn't make sense to me on a lot of levels, and I don't like it, but I think that's probably what's going to happen. And I think at some point in time in this film, the stakes are going to be raised, the ante is going to be upped when Dewey is taken out. I think there's going to be a lot of bodies in this one. I do believe that by the end of it, Sidney and Gail will still be standing, but I don't believe that their characters are going to be very involved after this film. I think this is going to be a clear passing of the torch scenario. I believe that the killer or killers is going to be very closely, directly involved with Sidney and the Carpenter sisters. And there's going to be a link there between the sisters and Sidney and maybe even Gail. I do believe we're going to create a new set of these legacy characters that are going to live on through hopefully several more sequels. And the fact that, as Mickey said, don't you know, history repeats itself. I believe the new legacy characters by the end of this thing are going to be Sam and Tara Carpenter, filling in this role of Gail and Sidney. I believe that Richie, played by Jack Quaid, is going to be your new Dewey. And I believe those are going to be the three core characters to go on throughout what I'm hoping are a couple of more sequels. If done well, I'd love to see it. And if you really want to go back to the past and kind of tip your hat and have a nod towards the original, maybe let one of Randy's niece or nephew survive along with them. I would say Chad Meeks, because I would like to see a jock character become something different. Be something different, become something different, especially in the slasher genre. A jock is just a jock, and they're there to probably be a douchebag and get knifed. And I don't really want that from Randy's nephew. I don't want that from his niece either, but I think that there's the potential to do something with this. And it's a nice rounded ratio of 2 female, 2 male survivors as they did in the original. And I kind of think that that's what you may see going forward. I especially believe those 3 characters that I mentioned in Richie, Sam, and Tara are going to be your core characters going forward, should there be a forward to go. Because let's not kid ourselves, if this movie doesn't do well, this could be the end of Scream as we know it. On the silver screen, you got to think, after 4 performed very poorly at the box office, you got a TV show, but other than that, that was kind of it for a long time. So I think that may be the plan going forward. At least I think it would be. I think it would be a good idea. But as far as these characters go, kind of getting back to that, since I know I've kind of gone off on a tangent, but it's still related nonetheless. I think this movie is going to pull on some heartstrings. I think 1 or 2 of these main characters are going to be gone. And I think, once again, your killer is going to be a connection from the Carpenter sisters to Sidney and maybe even Gail. I think there's going to be some kind of connection there. You're going to see a clear passing of the torch. Maybe even a couple of the people that were just mentioned working together to take down these killers. Because I'm assuming, based on what I've heard, there is more than one killer in this one. So I don't know. We'll see. One with that said, I'd like to know what you all think. And I love talking these what if scenarios with fans of the Scream franchise, because we all seem so very passionate about it, and it always makes for very good conversation. So here's what I want. I want everyone down below in the comments to let me know what you all, or to let me know what you all think about these legacy characters. Who will live? Who will die? Will all three live? Will all three die? Will one or two die? Let me know what your thoughts are. And let me know what your thoughts are about this passing of the torch, and who you think are going to be these new foundation characters, these new legacy characters going forth to be able to build on and call them legacy characters one day. I want to know your thoughts about anything and everything Scream legacy characters down below. And if you're curious, just as my thoughts to any other returning characters, I think Martha Meeks is fucking dead on arrival, and I think that Judy is probably dead as well. So yeah, just wanted to throw that out there, since those are really the only other characters I know that are coming back to the franchise from a previous installment. So I guess that's kind of all I've got to say about that. It's going to be interesting to see Judy with her presumed son Wes, what's going to happen with those, and as well Martha with what appears to be her twin son and daughter, Chad and Mindy. So I'm interested in those things, but there's really not a lot I can kind of, go into in depth right now, because there's so very little that we know, which is a good thing. I like to know just enough when doing these videos, or, just researching to see what's going to be the movie's going to be about. I like to know just enough. And so far, I think this movie has done a very good job of that. And I would say to Blumhouse, take fucking notes. Now, we haven't seen a trailer yet. I will say the teasers have been quite sparse. Maybe a little too sparse. I don't know. But maybe we can make that call when the trailer comes out. Anyway, like I said, folks, I want to know what you all think about the legacy characters as it relates to Scream 5, a.k.a. Scream 22. Let me know down in the comment section below. While you're there, leave a thumbs up. And, hey, what the fuck? If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? This is rude. You've listened to me talk this entire time. Presumably you've enjoyed it, at least somewhat, because you're still here. So go ahead and subscribe. We talk anything and everything Scream here, Halloween, pretty much anything horror, but we're really focused in on those two franchises right now, since they have so much coming up on the horizon. And yeah, check down below in the description section where you'll see some links to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or even support my work via a couple of links down there as well. So that would be appreciated. And yeah, with that said, I'm Brand from Bloody Breakdown, and we will catch you all next time.